What's up, Make Pop Music? It's Austin here from Make Pop Music and Austin Hall Audio, and today we are back with another video. And for today's video, I asked you all on the Facebook group what kind of video you wanted to see on the channel this week, and a couple people said that they would like to see what kind of VSTs I've been into really recently, so I wanted to go ahead and show you 5 new plugins that I've been using a lot recently that I feel very strongly about, and I think everybody that's watching should either look into or kind of download a demo and try and see if they're working right for you. So I am going to be talking about 5 plugins that I'm really loving at the moment, but this is kind of a follow-up to a video we made earlier this year. I think it was the first video of 2021, and I basically talked about all of my favorite plugins throughout the year of 2020 in that. So if you want to go check that out, I am still using all of those all of the time. We'll put a link to that video in the description below. However, with that said, we're going to be looking at 5 brand new plugins that I've been trying lately. So these are either recently released or they were released within the last year or two, but I've just downloaded within the past couple months, and I'm really falling in love with and adding them to my constant workflow. With that said, if you want to check out any of these, there will be links in the description to all of these so you can download them, download a demo, purchase them, do whatever you want. I don't think any of the links down there will be affiliate links, but if there are, they will have an asterisk by them that just lets you know that is an affiliate link, so I will be getting a little bit of kickback if you purchase it or try it through that link. However, this video is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. This was not done to kind of push affiliate links in the description. This is really just done to kind of show you what new things I'm adding into my workflow and what I'm really excited about at the moment. So with that said, watch this video, see if any of these feel like a good fit for you, and if they do, definitely go check them out. All right, let's go ahead and hop in the DAW and start looking at my 5 favorite plugins at the moment. All right, let's go ahead and look at plugin number 1, and that is a new vocoder that's actually from Auto-Tune. It's called Auto-Tune Vocodist. If you saw, I did make a TikTok pretty recently about using this, so if you want, you can head over to our TikTok. It's just at @SaustinHull. But I'm really enjoying this vocoder because, as y'all probably seen on the channel through the past couple years, I've tried a couple different ones and there were things that I liked about all of them. However, with this one, let me just kind of show you some of the cool functionalities. One thing that's really cool is this actually has auto-tune built in. So if you are going to have the dry vocal in there, or if you haven't tuned a vocal and you just want it to kind of snap to the right notes, you can go ahead and you can pop on something like auto-tune where you can kind of see exactly what notes you can use in your scale. You can set your scale. It basically works the exact same as kind of like an auto-tune or an auto-tune Evo would. You can even select your input type so it can give you just the right algorithm for your voice. But why I really like this is some of the pre and kind of post-processing outside of the typical vocoder sound. So something that's really cool about this is we have the voice coming in where you can compress it. So it kind of leaves a little bit of CPU because, as you can see, there's nothing I'm really putting before or after Vocodist. So some of the vocoders in the past, I would put a full vocal chain before just to kind of shape that sound to hit that vocoder just right. However, I don't really have to in this. Let me go to somewhere where I'm actually using it so you can just hear what it sounds like. So controlling that compression coming in is a really nice way. And then you've also got some stuff over here where I like the built-in chorus. You can add your dry vocal back in. I'm not going to. I want it to just be completely the actual vocoder. And then you can go ahead and you can do things like you can change the gain, you can add some warp, which kind of adds a little bit of saturation. And then the spread right here is also a great free feature. I have this tucked under a main vocal, so I'm going to leave it nice and wide to just kind of fill that out. And then, of course, you've got your noise section right here. So you've got white noise and pink noise, and you can kind of just do whatever you need to. You do have your synth right here, so you can choose the oscillator or you can sidechain an input. I've got it set to a MIDI track. So right now, this MIDI right here is just controlling whatever notes I want to play. So if I, shift it up. So again, that's pretty typical of vocoders, but what I really like about this one are some of these filters sound really nice. So I'll just kind of flip through them so you can see. Then you've got an XY pad here where you can kind of change these 2 different shapes. So this is just going from like a saw to something like a kind of PMW'd square or PWM square. And then you've got the same thing for oscillator 2, but what you can do is you can kind of drag this. So that feels really nice. And then you've got your intervals right here. And then you've also got a glide. So this makes it almost feel like a synth, which I thought was kind of a really cool addition, because most others feel like a typical vocoder. However, this one I feel like gives me a little bit more flexibility, especially if I didn't want to do something like stack chords. But if I almost wanted to use it a little bit more as like a talk box, I could use this kind of glide and these different detune and octave adjusters over here to really make it feel a bit more robotic. I'm gonna leave it at 0 for this song, but again, this just kind of shows you all of the cool different things that I'm really liking about Vocodist. Number one, most importantly, it just sounds really good. It fits in a mix really well. I'm able to shape the sound coming in, I'm able to shape the sound coming out, and I just find, you know, with so many different presets and options, we've got plenty over here. These are all of the kind of built-in filters that you can swap from to get that vocoder sound, and then the presets in here are great. They got some Chromeo stuff, they got some Rachel Collier stuff, so they did a really good job with this. I find this is probably going to be like my go-to vocoder going forward. If you do want to check out Auto-Tune Vocodist, I believe that is only found in their Auto-Tune Unlimited subscription, which is 25 bucks a month. But in that, we've done a video on that before. You would get the Vocodist, all of the different Auto-Tunes, Auto Key, all of the different Auto-Tune EFX, or the Antares EFX, so like Warm, Duo, all of that kind of stuff, but I don't believe it's available as a standalone plugin. It's just found in that bundle. All right, my second plugin that I'm really excited about at the moment is something I've been waiting on forever, and that is this custom Opto compressor from Slate. This is available in their subscription, which I believe is like $9.99 a month, and you get all of the Slate digital stuff, which to me, I still feel like that's like the best deal in audio. But again, this is not really an ad for that. I just wanted to let you know where you could get it. But what the custom Opto is it's basically an Opto compressor that has a bunch of different modules. So this is kind of going to replicate or emulate / replace something like an LA2A, a CO1B, something that's going to be a little bit slower. However, I find the LA2A, while it's a great kind of compressor, I do find it very limited in how I can adjust it. And with the CO1B, it's got a little bit more than the LA2A. I do like the sound a little bit more, but again, you're not going to get things like these tone controls. And honestly, it's a little hard to find a good CO1B replica. Like I had to buy one from UAD or Softtube, and those were super expensive. This is just nice to have in the subscription bundle, and I feel like it just sounds a little bit better, and I like the flexibility a little bit better than the CO1Bs that I've been trying and most of the LA2As that I've been trying. So this is kind of my go-to Opto compressor now. I've used it on a couple mixes since I downloaded it last week. But basically, I'm just popping it after an 1176. I'll kind of show you what it sounds like on a vocal, and I'll just show you some of the functionalities.
Let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer. Margarita, dress so much they call me C.
All right, so for this, you can hear as soon as I engage it, it kind of tightens everything up. So we have a peak reduction right here, which is going to be the same as kind of the reduction on something like a LA2A. The more I turn that up, the more compression I'm going to get. We have a ratio right here, which is really nice because that's not something that we have on an LA2A. So we can kind of adjust that ratio and get a little bit more flexibility out of this as an Opto compressor. We do have the speed right here, and then we've got the output gain. So, you know, you can just level match it if that's how you like to gain stage your mixes. But something that I'm really excited about is this tone control. So what I'll do is I'll kind of play it as I swap through some of these. So you've got flat, smooth, warm, aggro, and airy. For this, I'm using airy, but let me just kind of swap through and show you exactly what it sounds like.
Let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer. Margarita, dress so much they call me Caesar. Backstabbing motherfuckers gonna catch a case.
So flat is a pretty general sound. I don't really find it doing too much coloration. It's really just giving me that tight compression that I want in an Opto compressor. Smooth, I feel like it's kind of balancing out some of those high resonances, and it's just kind of flattening out that top end. Warm, I feel like is adding a little bit of saturation in kind of the low mids and the mids just to thicken it up a little bit. Aggro, I feel like it's putting a nice little bit of saturation throughout the entire spectrum. I feel like that could be really great to help something pop out in a mix, especially if you're going to hit this pretty hard with, you know, 8 to 10 or more dB of gain reduction. And then airy, I feel like just adds a nice little bit of top sheen, which was perfect for what I was going for. The last thing that I really love in this is what Slate does in most of their plugins, and that's add a mix knob. Again, that's something that is hit or miss for me with compressors. I love having the option where I don't have to set up a parallel chain. Every time I want to use something like an Opto compressor, it's nice that I just have this in. So if I wanted to dial this in super hard,
Let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya.
but then dial that back as a mix. That'll kind of give me that parallel vocal compression that you hear people talking about a ton without having to go through the pain of actually setting that up. It'll help when I print stems later. It's just something that's really, really nice to have, and I'm super excited that Slate has added an Opto compressor, other than the LA2A that they did earlier this year, which was great as well. But this to me is a perfect replacement for something like a CL1B or an LA2A that you have just a little bit more functionality and control over. So definitely go check that one out if you're looking for a solid compressor. All right, let's take a look at the third plugin I'm really loving at the moment, and that is Fabfilter Timeless 3. This is their new delay. It's the follow-up to Timeless and Timeless 2. I've loved both of those. I'll pretty much love anything that Fabfilter does. Like Pro Q is my favorite EQ of all time. Pro L2 is my favorite limiter of all time. But let's go ahead and look at why I'm liking Timeless and kind of what it's doing for me in addition to something that kind of a normal delay would do. So with Timeless, it's super easy kind of user interface to look at. You've got all these cool little buttons down here that, you know, once you turn it on, they'll just all be kind of disengaged. And basically what this is just a delay. You can operate it in mono, you can do a stereo, you can do a ping pong, and then you've got your mix knob over here, which is kind of nice. It's not actually a knob, it's more like almost like a throttle, like a lever. You've got your pan, you've got your wet level, and then you've got your stereo width. So that's all pretty typical. And then let me kind of show you what it sounds like. So I've got it right now on this like cymbal and open hat. Right here, you can choose if you want free, quarter note, dotted note, whatever you need, straight note, triplets. You can all dial that in there. Right here, you can choose between tape and stretch. That'll just give you a little bit of a different character. There is a freeze, so if you want to do something like a crazy delay throw that you end up turning into a pad, you can freeze it, print it, and then kind of use that however you want. So if I do that, you'll kind of hear it. Which could be really cool if you're going for some kind of like Travis Scott ad-lib throw or something like that. And then right here, you've got your ping pong starting on the left or ping pong starting on the right. And then you've got your delay offset right here. You've got your delay time pan right here. So you can see it's got a user interface right here where you can really kind of take a look at what this is all doing. And let's go ahead and take a listen. But what we can do is we can go ahead and just reset this, and I'll kind of show you how I craft something, because these are really what gives us the sauce to me. So let's go ahead and show you. I'm going to go ahead and put this on a ping pong left to right, and then let's go ahead and start playing with these. So drive is going to give me a little saturation. There is a lo-fi, which is cool. It kind of gives it a little bit of a bit crush. I wouldn't really want something for this. The diffuse is a really, really cool feature. This is actually going to almost act as like a reverse delay or a reverse reverb, where it's just going to really smear out those delays. So I'll use something like that. Dynamics, which is cool. It's basically just operating kind of like an envelope on the actual delayed sound. And then this one's probably my favorite, is you've got pitch right here. So you can go all the way down or up 12 semitones or anything in the middle. And what this is going to do is every time it delays, it'll take it down by whatever pitch you've selected. So I do something like that for this just to give me a little bit of kind of cool sound design. And then we can filter it out over here. Turn the feedback up a little bit. We can duck it, which is basically going to sidechain it to whatever source signal you're using this on, which works great if you're using this as an insert. And then you've also got things over here like you've got different oscillators that you can use. You can do a wobble. You can kind of control the envelope. And then you can just add anything that you would want to, similar to Timeless 2 and a lot of the other kind of, you know, Saturn, any other Fabfilter like sound design plugin. You've got all of those options there. You've got auto mute, self oscillate. You've got your in and out. You can bypass it. Again, I'm really finding this right here to be what I go to Timeless for, and I'm kind of using this more as a sound design plugin rather than just a typical delay on something like a vocal. So when I add it to all these drums, it just gives me a cool little bit of vibe. instead of just being a typical quarter note delay or not having anything and just kind of being a boring little cymbal hit. So definitely check out Timeless if you're looking for a delay where you can get a little bit crazier with sound design. I should say before we move on to the next one, you can get Timeless 3 from the Fabfilter site. I believe it is $129 at the time of making this video, and it is not like a subscription or anything. It's just a perpetual license. Let's go ahead and take a look at plugin number 4, and that is going to be Soothe 2. You might have seen this coming up a lot recently. There's been a ton of audio channels kind of reviewing this. There's been a ton of hype about it on the forums and on the groups, and if you're still confused, you're probably not alone. It is kind of a complex plugin. You can go watch entire 40-minute videos. It'll kind of run down everything that this does. However, just a general kind of base guideline of what this does and kind of what I use it for is it just tends to smooth out different harmonic resonances. So I like to use it for something like a really harsh vocal where the upper mids are just a little bit harsh, or there's some low mid resonances that are just, when you EQ them, it kind of sucks the life out of the vocal. When you DS the top end, it kind of gives you a lisp. You can use something like this to kind of get around some of those problem areas without doing something as drastic as multiband compression or de-essing or dynamic EQ. This tends to be a lot more pinpoint, and you can see from here there are quite a bit of presets that they kind of come with stock, and I find these really, really good starting points. So typically what I'll do is, if I'm, I use it a lot on a snare drum, for instance. I'll go to something like harsh snare or clap, and I'll just kind of adjust everything as I want from these presets that they already have. Just because it's so complicated, I don't want to get stuck for 20 minutes trying to dial in something on Soothe 2, just to give me a little bit more smoothness on the top end of a vocal. I find that that just kind of screws up my workflow. So having a really, really good preset where I can kind of start with and then adjust from gives me enough flexibility while still maintaining super ease of use. So let me go ahead and kind of show you what it sounds like. So right now I've got a preset harsh Vox start, and I'll just kind of move around some of these knobs and tell you and show you what they do.
Come on over, mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer. Margarita, dress so much they call me Caesar. Backstabbing motherfuckers gonna catch a case. Got me going back to all of my own.
So you can hear that it's really smoothing out that like 2K to 8K, taking away some of the sibilants, taking away some of those harsh resonances, especially on certain words. And basically, the options that you have to kind of tweak this would be something like depth, where you can kind of see it operating here. Look at how these different frequencies will show up in the blue, and then look what happens when I adjust the depth.
Come on over, mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer. Margarita, dress so much they call me.
So that's basically going to be how much reduction it's actually doing. I like it typically for my vocals somewhere between like 2 and 3.5, 2 and 4. But then within that, you've got something like sharpness.
Come on over, mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier.
Which can allow you to get super pinpoint in how this is going to kill resonances. However, it can almost cause this like comb filtering if you use that too aggressively. So typically I'll leave this somewhere in the middle where it's not just doing these big, wide, almost like multi-band scoops. However, it's also not completely killing every resonance where it almost sounds like I've sent this through like a comb filter. And I'm starting to get a little bit of a wonky, kind of like almost feedbacky sound.
Come on over, mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead.
Then you've got selectivity right here, which will just basically kind of show you how selective this process is. Almost like how many bands it'll split this up into.
Come on over, mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a...
It's almost working as like a threshold, I guess, but it's, again, everything's got their own little wording on here. I do like that this plugin, if you just scroll over something, it'll tell you exactly what it does in a much more elegant way than I will. But I typically find it really, really nice for taking away some of the edge off of a vocal. You've got your attack and release time right here, which is really good, similar to like a multi-band compression. You can sidechain this to something if you want, and then most importantly, it has a mix knob. So if I find, let's say I do something like this and it's really aggressive at 100%.
Come on over, mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer. Margarita.
I can just dial that back to, 30 to 50% mix and still get away with it. Again, I'm just going to dial this a little bit back to where I feel like it's working for me a little bit better. But you've got your trim afterwards, and then you can delta, which is basically going to be so low to kind of hear what it's doing.
Let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer. Margarita, dress so much they call me Caesar. Backstabbing mom.
And that again just kind of helps some of those top end resonances, especially in a mix.
mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer, margarita.
Then when I turn on everything with all the sends,
Mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier.
the one thing I will say is be careful with Soothe, because you can easily get carried away and kind of fall into the pitfall of it sounds a lot smoother, it sounds a lot better, and then in your mix, everything just kind of loses character. It has a little bit of that like comb filtery phasiness, and everything just starts to lose a little bit of intensity. So I would say dial it in where you feel like it sounds good, and then dial that mix knob back to 50 to 80%. And then if you need to increase it from there as you keep mixing, increase it from there. But I would be kind of hesitant on just blasting this at 100% wet with, you know, it kind of having the depth at 7 or 8. It's going to start to cause weird issues where I think your mix is just going to lose a little bit of a pop. However, this can be really, really great for kind of mellowing out irritating source sounds. The other thing about this plugin is it is a little bit pricey. You can get this from the website in the description, but I believe it's like $2.19 at the time of filming this video, where if you're going to use this tool a lot, like especially if you're mixing vocals, or if you find that a lot of the people that you use aren't using a mic that's perfect for them, or you're doing a lot of live drums with overheads and snares, it probably is going to be worth it. However, if you're somebody who's just doing some run and gun mixing as you're producing, that is a pricey plugin for something that is so specific in your process. Let's go ahead and look at the last plugin that I wanted to talk about today, and that is Super VHS by Baby Audio. This plugin I've used on the channel before, specifically in like the last weekend style video that we did. So I put it right here on like some Mellotron strings you can kind of hear. That's the raw sound. And what I like about Super VHS is it kind of does something similar to like an RC20 or like a tape cassette, where it's going to kind of lo-fi everything, but I find that it lo-fies it in a much more kind of 80s inspired way, rather than just typically throwing on a bunch of noise, throwing on some saturation. So I'll kind of show you some of the things that it'll do. So we'll disengage this and drag every knob back down to 0. So the first thing that we've got right here is my favorite. It's the magic button. It's basically a chorus that's inspired by like a Roland. And that just adds a ton of width and depth for me. So especially on something like this, like a pad in the background, or a vocal, or something that I just want to kind of spread out and get into the back of a mix, it does a really good job of that. Here you can kind of hear it in the mix.
On over mamacita, let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer.
It really widens up that entire mix by just adding something like this to that one element of the strings. Will add so much extra depth into this entire production. And then on top of that, you've got something like heat, which is going to be some saturation. So I like a little bit just to give me a little bit of character, but I don't need too much. You've got wash right here, which is like a pretty crappy sounding 80s reverb that does a really cool job of adding character. If I was to put this on anything where this wasn't the vibe, I probably wouldn't use it, but it almost gives you that kind of like slap back that just has way too much of a feedback that kind of adds a little bit of depth and character without completely washing it out, even though it is called wash. I like it just to add a little bit of extra space, especially with that chorus. And then you've got your drift right here, which is going to be kind of like a chorus or like a rotary, where it'll just kind of knock it in and out of tune. So sometimes I'll do something like that just to give it a little bit more of an analog feel, because, you know, if I was to use something like a 30 or 40-year-old synth, I am going to have some pitch discrepancies as I play it. Drift can be a really nice way to kind of add that into something digital like Omnisphere. And then you've got static right here, which any other person would just call noise. So it's a mix of like some pink noise with some AC hum. It almost sounds like somebody has like an old style, just typical fan that you'd hear in a bedroom, and they have it right up to a mic. So typically I don't use too much of this. I'll just pop it over like right here. And then you've got shape, which is a couple different bit crushing options. I don't use shape too much unless I'm specifically going for something that's bit crushed, because if I'm going to use a bit crusher, I like having a lot of control over what it's crushing, how much it's crushing, what the dry and wet is. But if you want that kind of sound, I do find that this is a pretty good kind of preset start for that. And then, of course, you have a mix up here. I do sometimes find like some weird phase issues with the mix, so I tend to not use that too much. I'll just almost always have this at 100%, and then you've got your out right here, so if you want to gain stage it, you can. And it just adds a little bit of depth and character to something that can just kind of really enhance your mix.
Let me see ya. Go ahead and swipe the visa, just to treat ya. Cartier look like a freezer. Margarita, just so much they come.
So if you're looking for something to add a little bit of character, I love Super VHS. Another thing is it's normally pretty inexpensive. Let me check how much it is right now. Super VHS at this moment of filming this video is only 49 bucks. So again, it's one of those $50 plugins that you can use on pretty much any production or any mix just to add a little bit of vibe and character. I would spend 2 or 3 times the $50 just for that chorus alone because I really, really love a Roland style chorus. Those typically tend to be my favorite on synths, guitars, and background vocals. So having something like Super VHS where you can just kind of get that 80s sound, get that more analog sound, and really put a little bit of character on a digital sound, I think it's completely worth the $49. So if you want to check that out, if you want a cool substitute to something like RC20 or tape cassette, definitely go head up Super VHS from Baby Audio. All right, and that does it. That is 5 plugins that I'm currently jazzed about. I'm using these a lot, and I find that they just add a little bit of extra dimension to my production phase or my kind of post-processing phase or my mixing phase. So I do find myself using these pretty frequently. Again, if you want to try them, check out any of those links in the description below so you can try to add them to your arsenal. But if you want to leave a comment down below on which one or which several kind of caught your eye, let me know which ones you're really into because all of these plugins are something that I think people have seen iterations of, but I find that these all kind of build on, you know, what is a classic delay? What is a classic vocoder? What is a good opto compressor? Again, these are things that have kind of always existed, but I find these 5 that I talked about in this video to kind of take them a step farther and just add something that I personally felt like was missing out of my tool belt. But if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because that definitely helps out the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can head over to makepopmusic.com and check out all of our other free and paid content. That really helps support us so we can make weekly videos for you guys on this YouTube channel. And then in the comments below, you can let us know what videos you want to see in the near future. But that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully you found some new tools and things that you can go check out. But that's going to do it for this one. I'll see you guys next week. Much love, everyone. Peace out.